Hi, I'm Greg Sothanos, and this is B-17 Archaeology. Our story starts 79 years ago today as Earl Thomas Williams flew into history on the day that will live in infamy.
I came from a little town, Martins Ferry, Ohio, and I worked in a bakery after I graduated from high school, and it was no wind sort of job. And so the Army Air Corps at the time gave me an invitation to enlist, and they would send me to air mechanic school. And upon graduation, I had a choice of 3 places to go to, but they sent me to March Air Base. I arrived in Riverside, California in April of 1940, and I was assigned to the 38th Reconnaissance Squadron stationed here at March Field. September of 1941, we got word that we should start preparing for an eventual move to the Philippines to augment the B-17 squadrons that were located there. So I was selected to be one of the air crews and installed the armor plate on our B-17. And when we completed that, well, we got orders to proceed to the Philippines. And on the 6th of December 1941, we flew into Hamilton Air Force Base, and from there, Hawaii. And as we started in our landing pattern, I was in the radio compartment, and all of a sudden the plastic canopy holding the twin 50 caliber machine guns exploded. And I wondered what that was about, so I stuck my head out and found out that we were being attacked by Japanese fighters.
A date which will live in infamy.
Well, they set the airplane on fire. Big explosion in the radio compartment. The pilot was having a hard time trying to get the airplane on the ground before anything happened.
I'm hit.
We were able to get down and roll down the runway, and the airplane broke apart just where the fire was in the radio compartment. And as we came to a stop, we exited the airplane. The flight sergeant asked how to get out, and I told him there's 2 ways out: the top escape hatch and the lower entrance door. He said, I'll go down to the lower entrance door. I said, I'll follow. But as we got out, I stayed with the airplane because the Japanese were still strafing us, and he ran out on the runway and was hit by some ricochet bullets, and later on died as a result. I stayed by the thickest part of the airplane I could until the fire stopped. So that was the first airplane, U.S. military airplane, shot down during World War II.
8 members of Sergeant Williams' crew were wounded. In the midst of the attack, they made their way to the hospital where their wounds were treated. Because of the chaos, Sergeant Williams' head wound was never documented.
I went with the co-pilot and the navigator. The navigator was shot in the air, and to go to the hospital. And so we got there, and they had so many people laying out on the lawn and everything out on stretchers, some dying and some very seriously wounded. They couldn't take care of them. But they found out that we were an air crew, and they wanted to give us emergency treatment so we get back to flying. So they took care of us right away. They shaved off my hair and gave me a tetanus shot, but painted TNT on my forehead to say I got a tetanus shot. So I went back, and as I was walking, the two officers, I never saw them again that day. They went someplace else, but I went back myself. As I was going back to the flight line, that's a whole different story. I looked up, and Japanese bombers just started bombing the barracks, and I started running as fast as I could down to the hangar line, and from there, another story.
He continued flying 55 combat missions in the South Pacific before returning to the United States and becoming an engineering officer. In 30 years of service, Sergeant Williams became Colonel Williams, retiring from the United States Air Force in 1970. In all that time, he was unable to obtain the Purple Heart he earned at Pearl Harbor. I met Colonel Williams 5 years ago while doing an interview for a project with B-17 Archaeology. And after hearing his story and knowing that he did not receive a Purple Heart for the wounds he sustained on December 7, 1941, I promised Earl that I would do everything possible to help him obtain his Purple Heart. So I received Earl's package that he had used for the last 20 years in his attempts to receive his Purple Heart. And I contacted the Gary Sinise Foundation. And through their contacts, within days, I was actually receiving emails from the United States Air Force that an official inquiry had opened up. I was able to supply the package to them, and at some point, it just went stale. So I reached out to the Order of the Purple Heart and found that I needed to have a buddy statement. Luckily, Colonel Reed, Earl's co-pilot at the time, had already written a statement for Earl, and I was able to obtain that and supplied that to the Air Force. Again, at some point it went stale, so what I started to do is contact the Air Force daily. On even days, I would make phone calls. On odd days, I would send emails. On Earl's 101st birthday, we received notification that Colonel Williams was nominated for the Purple Heart. 3 months later, Earl had passed away. And 4 months later, on November 11th, 2020, Earl was officially awarded the Purple Heart.